Hi there, I'm DANI Henderson, spiritualtherapist.com. And the lady in the screen doesn't really need an introduction, but she's going to get one. The lady in the screen is a global, worldwide, world-renowned women's health expert. She is a globally known OBGYN for many, many years. She's an inventor. She's a product line creator. She's an author. She's a mother. She's a lover of humanity. And her name is Dr. Christiane Northrup. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to see you in the jungle down there.
Oh, I know. It's a bit more jungly than where you are right there right now.
Yes, I would agree. Yes.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So how have you been? We met in Mexico and we've been yakking and playing and voice messaging. And ever since, it's been a wonderful couple of weeks.
It really has. Well, Mexico was, I felt, a turning point. You know, I did this thing called a seal. I couldn't explain it if my life depended on it. But it was either that or go get baptized. Or maybe it's both. But the seal, you know, sort of peels back the layers to who you are essentially. Like what is I think, the first vibration of your essence that comes forth in the world to do the job. And of course, David Mahoney was supposed to send me the audio recording because my phone was dying. I'm sure I will have to remind David, who's one of the funniest men on planet Earth.
So funny.
Mahoney.
But he and I, we're going to play next week. Mahoney, get the audio over to Christiane. Come on. Oh my God.
But so, you know, you were there, you witnessed it, and it felt like, yep, I think he's got the essence. As I recall, it was the healer to the royal family, or the teacher of the mothers and grandmothers and daughters and all of that. And that made a whole lot of sense. But what a wonderful thing that was in Mexico. And then the torrential rains and then listening to Huna talk about when this was Lemuria. It was just really a wonderful time with the soul tribe, really, you know?
Yeah. It was beautiful. And for those watching that don't know what we're discussing here, there's one more to go. It is a journey called Burning Mask, where people are gathering around the world. The first one was in Mexico, and Dr. Christiane and I had the honor of opening up the whole entire event, sitting on stage, speaking live, and they were live streaming on the Huna Flash website, and it's hoh.earth, House of Huna, hoh.earth for more information. And Huna Flash, or Mauta Taki, as he's also known, is this giant man. I mean, he is a big boy, a big Maori boy, and he's beautiful, huge. And the seal ceremony that Dr. Christiane is referring to is an ancient Lemurian. There's part of the Maori tradition in there. And so he sat in front of you and we sat in circle around you, you know, sending you love, honoring space. And he basically went through the sounds and the vowels of your name. And then he was pulling in some of the ancestral vibrations to come up with a beautiful name that fit you. Would you care to share that name? If you can remember it.
I have to show everybody, this is a picture of me and Huna. Now just see how big that guy is. Yeah, he's a big guy. And then that's Lee beside him, also a New Zealand Huna. But I don't think that Lee was ever a Maori. But no. No, I have the name, and I thought I had memorized it. It's not one that I'm, in daily use. Here it is. It's Takureru. Takureru.
Takureru. Takureru. I love it. It was beautiful. It was such an honor. It was such a private, personal thing to witness someone have that done. And Huna Flash Mautataki, he's such a beautiful man. He cried so many times, like genuine, like you can't bullshit your way through life just by crocodile tearing. You can feel generally with real, true human beloveds. And he just loves hard on everybody. And it was just such an honor to be there and to witness you going through it. It was so intimate. And there was a point where he stood up and he grabbed hold of you gently but strongly and was humming your name, your Huna name, into your mind, into your spine. And it was really beautiful to watch. It was very passionate, it was very loving, and you were totally in the moment, you were gone. It was a really amazing thing to witness. So I'm really happy that you're still feeling the vibratory resonance from that.
Yes. Well, you can imagine this whole thing started, and the next thing you know, my beloved dies, then shows up over the piano of my friend Amy, who's become my friend. I announced to the whole world that I have just lost the love of my life, which I had never announced because I needed to, I was so protective of the relationship. I was so protective, and he had these surgeries that he had to go through for old athletic injuries. And he was just Captain America, so strong and virile and all that. And then there were other things that happened. And I had a reading shortly after he left. And this woman said, he came to you to die. And that was so profound. It's, how you hear something, and you do this as a spiritual therapist, you understand a piece of the puzzle that they can't see. And the moment that I heard that from her, something clicked. Oh, okay. I see that this was never supposed to lead to riding off into the sunset together and creating a new life. That was never the intention. The intention from a soul perspective was to strengthen me for what was to come next. And boy, did it ever. Because I used to say to Ron, you have the kind of mind that has persecuted me my entire career. And which is true. He was a data guy and a PhD epidemiologist. Can you imagine? Worked with the World Health Organization. And then suddenly we have those groups running the planet. And but to have that kind of mind that I had all through school, I never had that kind of mind. I was in school always with the people with the photographic memories, the people who absolutely believed everything about medicine and, just do your yearly physical and And I always knew that was wrong. But I had this whole other, what I would say is, I love medicine. I just have a part that needs to be added. Could we just add this other part? Because it's missing.
Yeah.
This sort of feminine, intuitive, emotional part, or the part that says, this is your astrologic chart, whether you do Vedic or Placidic Western, it doesn't matter. This is your soul blueprint, and this is what you came to do. That is so helpful to people, what you and I are into. And then what happens, a lot of the fundamentalist Christians call that the work of the devil. It's like, yeah, that's just what they do. They take the most empowering pieces of information that would give you your soul path, that would give you your life purpose, and then make you suspicious of that and reverse everything. Totally. So, Ron and I went to a Buddhist monastery in Thailand. And, for the, what do you call it? Where you're doing the silent retreat thing. I will never do that again in this lifetime. That is not, that is not my thing. Luckily, we found the monks' coffee house. Oh. So we would walk over and have lattes where the monks also escaped.
Oh my God. Oh, bless you. Bless you. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Gosh, there's so much we could talk about. And it's like when we had lunch, I think it was our first lunch in Mexico, because there were a few, and dinners, that we emptied the restaurant, who were like, like nonstop. We kind of looked around like, oh, they closed. They didn't tell us. One of the other areas too that you and I really bonded on was I too lost my beloved. And that kind of grief, everyone thinks, I can imagine what it would be like for your partner, your person, your man that you were going to spend the rest of your life with, and then the next second they're literally dead and gone.
Yeah,
and terrible, right? It's and dreadful. And then all the fuckery with the rules that came in, of which we shall not speak. Not the non-permission to get to see them, to dreadful. Their crimes against humanity will continue to be acknowledged as this disclosure. definitely opens up. But what I want to get to at this moment, darling, is you as a little girl. I mean, it was just so wonderful to explore that part of you. So let me start by asking you, what is your very first ever memory that comes to you?
It is of sitting on a blanket and looking at my sister, who was a baby, and thinking, she is so cute. That's what I remember. And I couldn't have been, I mean, we're only 11 months apart. So yeah, I just remember sort of being protective, and isn't she just so cute?
That's so beautiful. 11 months apart. They call that Irish twins, don't they?
Big
Irish
time.
twins.
Yeah. Yeah. My mother's doctor asked her if she poked holes in the diaphragm.
How very rude of him to do that. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So it was you and your sister growing up, and your mum and your dad?
No, my older brother, John, and then there was me, and then my sister Penny, and then there was Cindy, who was killed in a car accident when she was 23, and then my brother Bill, but before him, Bonnie, who died at 6 months of age. She wouldn't eat. So I had these seminal experiences in childhood of medical things with children that drilled into me in a real emotional sense that doctors didn't have all the answers. So that prepared me for what was ahead. My parents signed my brother Bill out of the hospital against medical advice because a nurse, this would never happen today. A nurse came up to my mother and said, they don't know what's going on with him. If I were you, I'd get him out of here. And my mother already had had a baby die because she wouldn't eat in a pool of her own vomit at 6 months old. So, you know, they said, well, if this baby is going to die, he's going to die in the arms of the family. So when I was 8 years old, here's my brother Bill being fed every hour on the hour with an NG tube, nasogastric tube. And my dad had done facial reconstruction in a MASH unit in northern Italy during World War II. So, you know, there was no problem to put down an NG tube. And there were no doctors who could tell my parents anything except that my brother was not right. The term at that time was mentally retarded.
Wow.
And my mother said, I knew he was okay. I knew he was mentally fine, because mothers used to know that. They don't know anymore. They've been brainwashed out of their maternal instincts. Otherwise, they would never allow what's going on now.
Yeah.
Anyhow, they finally found a doctor in Philadelphia who, and at the age of 1 year, my brother weighed 10 pounds, but he was very chipper. He was very happy. And I always remember him with adhesive tape, you know, for the tube. And she took him to see this doctor, Dr. Crump in Philadelphia, who put down a fiber optic tube, light, said, the esophagus is so eroded that if you don't take that tube out, it's going to rupture into this cavity called the mediastinum, and then he'll die. So they took the tube out, and she said, why don't we wait and see what happens? Can you imagine? Don't just do something, sit there. And after 2 to 3 days, he started to eat. He was hungry.
God.
Yeah. And then when I was interviewing for medical school, I went to Dartmouth, but when I was interviewing at Yale, my dad ended up in the coronary intensive care unit of Buffalo General with chest pain. They thought that he had a heart attack. And after 2 days, the IV had infiltrated. He had a fever. He calls my mother. He says, Edna, come and get me. They don't know what's going on. And they didn't. And I came home. I drive home, and he's sitting up in his reading chair, reading, because he had fluid 2/3 of the way up in both lung fields, so he couldn't lie flat.
Wow.
And they didn't know what was going on. He had, in retrospect, infectious pericarditis. Now, years later, through a medium, I talked to him. And he said, oh, this is precious. I never thought I would be able to talk to you. I said, okay, well, Dad, now that I've got you on the line, what was that all about? And he said, I was so afraid that I would lose you to the medical ideology, because his brother and sister were both medical doctors and quite rigid about it. And he was a dentist, so they had to make fun of him because he wasn't a real doctor. He said, I was so worried that medicine would reach out and get you, you know, that it hurt my heart. Isn't that amazing?
Oh my God.
So, you know, long after his death, but he told me he plays the violin in the Cosmic Orchestra, and I feel him around, and I know that you are a professional medium, so you can make those connections for people too. And I've always known about these connections. When my sister was killed in a car accident right after graduating from college, she was coming back from teaching a gymnastics class in Buffalo, and south of Buffalo in the winter is some of the most treacherous weather in the world. And she went broadside into the oncoming lane and was killed instantly by this other couple. My mother then was moved to drive into the spiritualist church parking lot, and she goes in, and the minister channeled an entity called Dr. Andre, and the woman says to my mother, there's someone here, and you know, someone named Cindy wants to talk to them, and says that your mother, my grandmother, was in the car with Cindy and got her over the portal. And you know, then I remember bringing this woman into the house, and we all sat down, and the woman, it was a full trance channel. Like she literally became a Dr. Andre with the, you know, a man's voice, the whole accent, all of it. So
Wow.
this was all going on in my life way before I went to med school. I read all of Edgar Cayce. I read all of Joan Grant's novels. Joan Grant was a novelist in the 50s, I think, and all of her novels are past lives. So in college, I read Winged Pharaoh, which is what it took to be a pharaoh. And I remember thinking, oh, okay. So my residency was like that. You see, with the Winged Pharaoh, I guess they buried you for 3 days. And if they dug you up and you were alive, you got the job. Well, residency for a surgical residency back then, that's the same. You're alive at the end of 4 years, you've got the job.
Oh my God. Yeah. Hell. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Again, you're such a great storyteller, and you go in so many different directions, and that just elicits so many questions and wonderings and meanderings in the mind. And it's just so beautiful to listen to you. Your beautiful dad. I know he was a very big influence on you all of your life. Can you take us back to what it was like to be his baby girl? What do you remember from being Daddy's little girl?
I never was Daddy's little girl. So let's be very clear on that, because what he said from the other side, I was your first scoundrel. So let me be very honest, because both parents have now transitioned. If I know now, I didn't know then, I know now, I was the apple of his eye. I am the one of the children most like him. I think like him. I have the same brain. The two of us were absolutely two peas in a pod, and there was no way that my mother was ever going to let that one happen. Like I say to people, if he had really shown his affection for me, she'd have cut off his balls.
Oh,
Oh
my goodness.
No, it's like she was the one who was going to get the attention.
Yeah.
And that probably saved me. Because of our past life connection, that might have created emotional incest that I never would have been able to recover from. Because my dad was, I worked with this wonderful woman, Doris E. Cohen, and she told me about 2 lives with my dad. One where he was a priest and I was a nun, and we were madly in love, but that was never consummated. And then another where we were a couple in Germany. I always thought that he would marry me, but then his mother wanted him to marry someone else to keep all the land in the family. And so I was so angry. But my dad and I were real soulmates in a huge way, So from afar, Dad was a party in a box. I mean, he took his violin everywhere.
Oh my
everywhere. He would, play the violin and just, think it was his job to create a party. He loved everybody. His funeral was unbelievable. There was a square dance group and his violin group. He played in an orchestra. I mean, he was the most like me. My mother was the consummate athlete. Her idea of fun was 5 sports in a day.
God.
And when you look back and you see your parents as human,
Mhm.
he had been married when he went off to World War II, and within 9 months she asked for an annulment and took all of his money. And she'd been a model. So I think that he was very drawn to beauty and glamour and all of that. And he comes back from the war, and he went late. He was 36 years old. And he then meets my mother, who'd been writing him letters, and she was 19. And he and his friend, Carl Farner, who'd been on the German Olympic team, but then came to the United States, they took my mother, imagine this now, in the 1940s. They took my mother out to Sun Valley to enter her into ski racing so she could become a ski racer. And now she, for her part, grew up on the wrong side of the tracks in Buffalo, New York, Mineral Springs Road, saw the movie Sun Valley Serenade, and knew she had to ski. She saved up her money working at a department store, bought boots and poles and skis, and practiced on the railroad trestle behind her house.
Unreal.
And then somebody said, you should go to Ellicottville. That's the little town where I grew up. So she'd get on the train and travel an hour and a half to Ellicottville, where she stayed with local people who knew my dad from childhood when he was in the war. He's off at the war. She then comes to ski every weekend with friends, and they meet after the war is over. Now, there's no romance at all, but he takes her out to Sun Valley. Skiing was new. My dad started that sport in my hometown. He created the first ski area.
Wow.
So, and then once they got out there, she got vertigo with the mountains and the fog and whatever. And then they fell in love on the way back. And then they got married and had proceeded, like everybody at that time, proceeded to have 6 children, and 4 of us are remaining. And my mother just passed September 8th of last year at the age of 95. And now, again, I keep track of this. So, she's so happy to be, strong and young and having a ball at this point with my dad.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so beautiful. I'm switching between speaker and gallery here so we can see your beautiful face when you're in your story. So wow, so interesting to have such methodical, disciplined parents in their different realms, and then to produce, this global doctor that you became. Let's talk about you as a little girl in the garden. Like, where would you have your quiet time? What would you do to console, to soothe yourself as a child?
I made paper doll fairies. I would draw them, cut them out, and then play with them in the lilac bushes.
Oh.
So I was always in a garden, or when I got a little older, I was always up in a tree with books, always. And it wasn't when I was 12, I found this book, Natives of Eternity by Flower Newhouse, where in the Christ Word Ministry in California, she had a friend, someone in the congregation, who could see the angels, the fire spirits, the divas of the wind, the angels of birth, the angels of death. And when I saw that book, it was one of the most exciting moments of my life. It was, everything I've ever believed is true, is true. Yeah. And I was very lucky that I didn't grow up with any religious overlay at all, because my mother was wrongly accused of painting the Blessed Mother's toenails on the altar when she was working her way through girls' Catholic school, cleaning toilets. And because they were very poor, she stood in bread lines during the Depression, and she didn't do it. And my grandmother, 8th grade education, never threw her under the bus. She said to the priest, if Edna said she didn't do it, she didn't do it. So my mother had a thing about the Catholic Church, and she'd call it the religion of the masses, and the masses are asses. I mean, she'd have nothing to do with it. And my dad was Episcopalian. They wouldn't allow them to be married in the church because he had an annulment right, during the war.
So pathetic. So
Yeah,
pathetic. Get this
it's
started.
pathetic. Yeah. So remember that I was brought up kind of when we began to realize that a lot of the fundamentalism of whatever church it was, it didn't matter, Catholic, Protestant, who cared? So my mother, though, on Sundays, I often went to church with my dad, and I got confirmed in the Episcopal Church. I played the organ for the services and all that. And my mother would go into the woods. And then when she would show up on Christmas or, or Easter from church, then the minister would have to say something, about those who don't come to church. So that would keep her out for another 6 months.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
It's like the conversions that are attempted, there's people grieving their loved one at the side of the grave, and there'd be some vicar trying to convert, trying to use fear. And it's like, that's not the time and the place. Let the people grieve and feel their feelings. Yeah. Now, my background in like mentalized Pentecostal evangelical, it was just so horrific for a little girl or a little boy to go through. Nothing but fear and fright,
Yes.
And so that's amazing. Again, really strong parents that you had, really mentally strong, and people that even get a glimpse into athleticism, to become Olympic standard. That is another light years ahead mindset for someone.
It is.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything in particular that your mother instilled in you in regards to that kind of discipline, thinking, planning, making something happen?
I think that was as much my dad. Remember, he had just come out of the war. So when we would all go hiking or something and you forgot your water bottle or whatever, he would say, "I've got mine, Jack." And it harkened back to, you're responsible for your own stuff. And if you don't have it, you're the one who's going to suffer. And so our childhood was a whole lot of physical activity. Like every vacation was a camping trip that involved carrying a heavy backpack into the woods somewhere and sleeping in the rain. And I remember thinking, who in the world thinks this is fun? I mean, we sort of specialized in, if there was the tail end of a hurricane and we were having massive rainstorms in the Adirondacks, well, that's the time you want to go into the woods, when the creeks are flooding. And I remember thinking, who does this sort of thing? Christmas morning. Okay, every Christmas morning. Where are the families who sit around, open their gifts, and have hot chocolate and talk to each other? Because that was not us. What we had to do, crack of dawn, had to open the gifts, and then you had to be on the slopes for what's called the fresh powder. Like you were making the first tracks in the fresh powder, and all my family were ski instructors, and they were always coaching a racing camp. My sister was on the United States World Cup circuit and the Olympic team, US ski team. And so there was an enormous, the resources went to the athletes. And I remember my parents telling me something funny, and this is where the discipline comes in. So they said to me, "We noticed in you a tendency to want to sit by the fire and read books. So therefore, we had to be sure that got rooted out of you. Like you wanted to be warm and sit by the fire and read books. So that's not going to work." Now, I have to tell you, I'm so grateful for that. I wasn't at the time, but I am now, because what it did, like when we'd go on one of these hikes, one of these long 21-mile treks with a backpack, they would put mud over the trail markers that told you how far it was back to camp, because they knew that I would just like, oh my goodness, I can't go a moment further. What I learned early on was that we have so much more stamina, physical stamina, ability to survive than we think we do. So that if the sign would say 0.3 miles, but it was really 5.2. I mean, I can remember one time in particular And we had so much further to walk to reach the cars. And I just thought, how am I going to do this? And then I remember looking up at the sides of the canyon where the river was going and saying to myself, well, there aren't any buses running here. The only way out is you're going to have to walk out. And because that was my childhood, it set me up perfectly for a surgical residency and for being up all night and being, so there's a place for that, but it's not the way you want to live your life, as though everything is a forced march. However, I know what's inside, so I don't quit from whenever I'm doing something that needs to be done. And I notice that other people don't get how strong they are. They don't get what the reserves are actually like because they've never been tested. So I'm really grateful for that childhood, really grateful. And at this point, not enough people have that stamina, that resilience, that don't ask for a lighter pack, ask for a stronger back. I mean, I climbed Mount Washington in ski boots, carrying my skis and poles when I was 10.
Wow.
And
Wow.
Yeah. Now, do I think that that is a great idea for kids? No. I think that there are nicer ways to find that edge. When we all went out and we studied with John Douillard in Boulder, and he did the best thing. This guy wrote Body, Mind, and Sport, and he'd have you breathe only through your nose, because if you're breathing just through your nose, you're balancing parasympathetic and sympathetic. Beat to beat variability of the heart is affected and all that. So he'd have us do this thing where just breathing through your nose, he'd turn up the treadmill. And then as soon as you could no longer breathe through your nose, he'd say, let's get out of here. Because when you're in a forced march and you're gasping for air, you're creating free radical damage to the body. This is why elite distance athletes die early, because they are constantly through free radical damage. They're pushing through with their will, but they don't know how to keep the physiology up with it. So the key is breathing just through your nose. So if you can run breathing only through your nose, you will expand the capacity of your rib cage and you will make your body so much more efficient. Well, as soon as I learned that, then every athletic endeavor from that moment on, if it was a walk, if it was a run, if it was anything, as long as I could breathe through my nose, in through the nose and out, sometimes with Darth Vader breathing, if you're really exerting yourself, you've got to go, you got to really snort it out. But that was life-changing, because I realized, oh, wait, this isn't some external standard. They do that a lot, by the way, with middle school kids in soccer and so on, make them run until they're throwing up. This will lead to people who hate sport.
Yeah.
But when you know that you've got this internal barometer, and then he'd put the incline of the treadmill up, and then, okay, we're out of here. And then we'd go again. Every time your body would give you more. It was you find that leading edge where it's not painful, but it's a little further than you ordinarily would go. That's how you train your body. You don't train your body with, what a lazy piece of shit you are, get up. No, you're literally asking your body to go a little further, and you're finding that the body does that, and the body is your friend. And you and I both know, you don't get stronger, you don't get more flexible, you don't get better at anything unless you go a little beyond your comfort zone, but not into pain. And frankly, we're not taught how to do that. So I had to learn myself how to do that, because, because I was not the athletic one. And so I was the one that they were always making fun of, And then I would do things like, one of the things I did with my beloved is we went skiing at Mammoth Mountain, one of my first trips out there. He had a place where we were, it was a first little meeting with him. And so we go skiing and I go, racing down the mountain and he goes, "Oh my God, you're really good at this." And it's like, I am, because my whole family was Olympic level. So I always thought that I was the goon. And that was kind of worth everything. Here's Ron, who's, big captain of the football team guy going, "Wow, you really know how to ski."
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah. And again, it doesn't sound like there was too many praises the whole time. Like, "Oh, well done, darling. Well done, darling. Oh, darling."
Not with sports. Not with sports. Not ever. It was the opposite. Like I took golf lessons in college because I wanted to come home. I just wanted to play with them. So I took golf lessons. I come home. This is how it always went. First time my mother sees me hit a ball, she goes, "You're swinging that thing like a baseball bat." It's like, I just took a semester of lessons to be able to play with the rest of the family. Another time, I'm practicing tennis all summer long, up against a backboard over and over and over. My dad walks by. He goes, "You're swinging that like you're sweeping the floor with a broom." It's like, could anyone say anything nice to me? Meanwhile, right, I'm off, I'm getting A's, I'm getting awards, I'm the valedictorian, so when my parents showed up freshman year of college, they showed up for me getting an award and I about lost it, that they were even in the audience.
Oh,
But I just sort of expected nothing.
Chris. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, bless you. Bless you. That
Yeah.
must have felt amazing, amazing, amazing. I was reading a story about one of my boyfriends, Nikola Tesla, and he said, it's a book. He wrote himself. It was a collection of articles that he would write for the young man. And I think it would go in a magazine in the early 1800s called the Electronic Experimenter or Experiencer, something like that, like Electronic Magazine today kind of thing. And he wrote so many things in that. And I just completely lost my train of thought. What the hell were we talking about?
But the boyfriend, Nikola Tesla, and we had just said I didn't get a lot of kudos from my parents.
Oh, yeah.
World, yeah.
So this man was such a perfectionist. He would get up at 3. He'd go to bed at 11, get up at 3. He wouldn't stop. He wouldn't stop developing in his mind, creating. He was finally allowed to go to school and study because his dad wanted him to go into the clerical environment.
Oh my gosh.
And then he was always getting sick. Nikola was sick so much of his life. God love him. Like really serious things he always recovered from. But he wanted to prove to his parents, "Look, I'm so happy that you let me come. Here's what I'm doing. And he had all these awards and accolades and was the best at this, the fastest at this, the most amazing at that. He goes home to his parents and he showed them, and his dad just turned the other way, and it crushed Nikola. He was devastated. But when his father died, he found letters from the professors of that school. And they said, "If you don't take your son out of this school, he will die from overwork." And so so his father they didn't want to encourage. I mean, there's so many stories like that he wrote, his beautiful penmanship and the way that he speaks and the way he honors his mom and his dad equally. It's such a beautiful man. I love reading what he wrote. I mean, not what others have written to make money off him or add their own bollocks and steal his work and all the rest of it. But, what he truly espouses himself. And like, similarly, you being a female world expert in health, in one of the amazing ways that you share your own life vibration, your own handwritten, you've penned your own life story, which nobody can tamper with. Having said that, there's an absolutely ridiculous nonsense on the internet. Well, where isn't there these days? And these absolute barnacles with less than a bean for a brain are writing things about you that you are the world expert in conspiracy theories, and I'm like, oh, shut up.
I know.
Shut up and sit your ass down, you knob. It's like enough, just enough. But yeah, it's just incredible. Okay, so I'm going to put my boyfriend to the side.
By the way, I just want to say though, my parents really, anything we were interested in, they would support. So I wanted to play the harp since I was 3. They found a harp teacher. They sent me to the Carlos Salcedo Summer Harp Colony of America in Camden, Maine. They really supported that, you know, so the truth is it's just that my mother's sports thing that was the king. She even before she died, she said, you know, I just didn't know what to do with you. You know, and so what I want to say to people, and you and I have talked about this, so many people have lost loved ones. And what you want to make sure of is that there's no unfinished business, because I've worked a lot on, you know, my inner child, which is if you don't heal those places inside you, then you've got a 7-year-old running your immune system, your central nervous system, and your endocrine system. And you don't want a 7-year-old running those systems. It's better to have an adult doing it, but the unhealed part of you will run those systems until you bring attention back to the unhealed child. And frankly, no one gets the parents they want. They get the parents they need to complete the soul assignment that brought them to the earth in the first place. And, you know, now knowing that intellectually is one thing. Doing something about it and you can always tell, Danny, I'm sure you can tell the people who figured it out. Oh yes, this happened to me as a child, but it's fine. I'm over it. It's like, then why do you have lupus, or why do you have psoriatic arthritis? Or see, this is where the rubber hits the road in the physical body. And almost every illness comes from, who's the other guy who was with us in Mexico? He said, a spiritual amputation. Jay
Campbell. Jay Campbell.
Campbell. Yep.
Yeah, powerful. Oh my God, so powerful. So in terms of the inner child, so I was a keynote speaker a couple of years ago in an event, and I had 4 billionaires on stage. I couldn't be less impressed with how much money you've got. Okay, well done is all I have to say. Good for you. Good for you. Are you helping your neighbors, your friends, and people across the world that could do with a few quid? You know, because if you're not, talk to my ass and watch it walk away. That's my whole attitude, right? So I'm talking, I'm on stage and I'm like the speaker, and I'm telling these men, these 4 men, you know, basically, darling, if you have not dealt with that little boy inside of you, you can change your trophy wife in every year for a younger model. You get yourself another Ferrari, whatever, you know. But if you haven't loved on that little one, you are going to be running and running and running your whole life. And one of them just burst into tears.
Really?
Started crying. I just gave him a big cuddle duddle. And then I had some private one-on-one sessions with him. It is the greatest gift that we can give ourselves. And that little, thank you so much for sharing my little live, love, spread love little broadcast I did this week on your Telegram and your Twitter, darling. Thank you so much. And in that, you know, acknowledgements to the inner child, ways to heal, ways to love on us, ways to breathe into the body, like all the things that we need right now. We're all so stressed in the world right now. No one is exempt from this. No one. So how can we take care of us? How can we love on us? How can we learn to, you know, take the painful energy out, put it to the side, talk to the body in a way we never had, become self-autonomous in more ways than we ever have before? And, you know, I don't know about you, but I'll speak for myself. I've had some really bloody bossy partners and bossy parents and all bossy siblings and bossy friends. And, you know, people, if they really always want to give you their advice, and, you know, and that's fine. I'm like, listen to it, but take what resonates, you know. Or I've had a couple of partners who have been like, you know what, I really loved this about you when I met you, but it kind of bugs me now. Can you stop doing it? I'm like, what, breathing? You know, kind of, you got to that point. Years ago, having a boyfriend, I was like going back to college. I was studying on, like, I'm leaving this town when I'm done. I'm going back to London. I've got a plan. And you know, I'm got quite hyper and a lot high energy. Because you're like, oh my God, Danny, oh my God, you are so much. Like you're hard work. I'm like, bye there. Bye, because I'm great. All right. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. But I'm not going to get dragged down to you. You can't even drive and you're in your late 30s. All right. You live with your mum. You live with your mum in her basement. Okay. So you want to have a conversation? All right. Bye-bye there. You know, but a lot of people will do that when they feel less than. And you're kind of pushing forward and dreaming, and you have aspirations, and you think, I wonder if, I think I can. So you know you can. And then, you know, a message to everybody, we've all run into people like that. And then people like your parents, not over, you know, bigging you up, not over like the helicopter parents today. You didn't win the race. Oh, darling, what can mummy buy you? Darling, don't cry, puppet. It's all right. Oh, he cheated. Oh, you're better than him. You just haven't. No, your kid lost. Get over it, right? You're not helping them. We're not helping them. I mean, darling, there are so many ways to go here. I want to go back a little bit down the timeline, and I want to ask you, if we were to go into the bedroom of Christiane at 14 years old, are there going to be posters on her wall? And are there going to be books on the bookshelf? Like, what were your influences at that time, 14?
You know, around 14, because that's when the Kundalini begins to rise. And I got my period when I was 13 and had terrible cramps, and my eyeballs warped into stigmatism. I had plantar fasciitis. I realized, I was going to be a girl, and this was not going to be easy. So I was, you know, I think I was moody. I had classical migraines. I was always worried that I weighed too much. You know, went on my first diet. Just not a happy time. I had my first boyfriend. It was like what would have been great then. Actually, I think, you know, a lot of my life has been just reparenting myself. You know, my mother couldn't do hair. You know, I want her once to put rollers in my, it just was not her thing, but she could go bring down a deer before Thanksgiving. I mean, God love her. She did a lot of great stuff. She really did. She really did. But the girl stuff, you know, I was becoming a young woman with there was no mentor for hair and makeup and fashion and any of that stuff. And so I remember listening to certain music. I remember the 45, you know, records were out. Yeah. Johnny Angel was great.
Oh my God, that's my karaoke song. That's it. Really? Johnny Angel, how I love him. He's got something that I can't resist, but he doesn't even know that I exist. That's like me and my song to Liam Neeson. He doesn't know I exist. How funny that song, you mentioned that song. I love that. So what else were you listening to?
I was actually, at that time, I was so studious. I mean, I was so determined to get straight A's. So around that time, I was translating Caesar's Gallic Wars, you know, from Latin to English, English to Latin. Wow. I was studying the harp. I think by then I'd started to go to Maine in the summers, and I'd spend a couple, 2 to 3 weeks, just 2 lessons a week and practicing all the time. You know, I was just like nose to the grindstone, but very worried about my body. Like, you know, I'm not thin enough. I'm not attractive enough. I'm not, you know, whatever. But I was going around with my boyfriend to things like motocross and, you know, breathing the fumes of petrol and all of that stuff. You know, he was a manly guy. But 14 was not, it was not a fun time, because I hadn't really, okay. And then I was having breakfast with this woman named Gretchen, and Gretchen had been to Christ Word Ministry every year. So we would have breakfast together once a month, and she'd teach me about spirituality, about the nature spirits and about the angels and all of that sort of thing. So that was all going on. You know, that's when spirituality really tends to rise. And that's when you need some kind of rite of passage, like a coming of age ceremony, anything like that. And we didn't have that. They have that in the Navajo Nation. And now more and more, because of the work that many of us have done, people are celebrating their daughter's first period or her coming of age or whatever it is. So that's exciting. But I was just kind of a mess. I mean, to tell you the truth. So I just shoved all my energy into school and academics.
Wow. So
Yeah.
there were no like pop star posters like Donny Osmond or anyone like that on your wall, or picture of a horse, or any particular books on the bookshelf in the bedroom in particular?
No, the only book that I had that I loved was Natives of Eternity, the pictures of the angels, and I still have that book. But I also really liked, I'm trying to think. I loved, love stories, romance stories, romantic comic books, that kind of thing. Loved all that. I'm a Libra, so it was always, about finding the twin flame and all of that.
Oh, so
Yeah.
sweet, adorable. So moving forward, as you decide that you're going to become a doctor, what was it about obstetrics and gynecology? What was that area? Why were you so drawn into that in particular?
Well, I was never going to become a doctor because I had watched my aunt and uncle have crappy lives. So I said, why would I want to do that? They were always having to leave Christmas and Thanksgiving dinner early because of some emergency, and they seemed rigid and they weren't very healthy and they weren't into health. My dad was into health. And but then I went to medical school because it was a better degree than a PhD. Honest to God, that's the only reason.
Wow.
And then I got there and I saw a baby born, and I thought I would just fall down to the ground with weeping, pain-filled joy, joy-filled pain. And that was it. That was it for me. And I realized now, like years later, watching that baby born was bringing back my own birth, my own coming into this world. And I believe, here's what I really know. We go into the line of work that is it's a soul choice. But the family we choose, the time of birth we choose, all of that stuff makes it very personal. So we will do the soul thing. The soul thing is first, and then you choose the circumstances, the people, the places, the things that will allow you to do this work. So I believe that seeing that baby born was my chance to redo my entire entry on the planet, and so that I was going to take care of these mothers and babies the way my own mother and me were never taken care of.
Oh, my darling. Wow, that
Yeah.
is so profound, profound, profound. And this baby that you saw born, was it a boy or a girl?
I don't remember, but what I remember is this. They were the homeliest couple you have ever seen. I thought it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And the medical student named David Sunday took the clamp off the cord prematurely because he, if you're new, you don't know how to do this. And the cord is spraying all over the walls like a little fire hose. The nurse is yelling at him. And I'm thinking, there is no place in this room for anything but the most reverent respect for the holiness that's going on here. And I just knew it in every cell of my body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Wow. How many years of actual gynecological study did you do?
Then I did a 4-year residency. And that was everything from delivering babies and C-sections and hysterectomies and, all manner of everything that affects the genital area, the reproductive area of a woman. And what I found from that, so this was the era of, it wasn't the beginning of the sexual revolution, but it was right in there. And the women's movement and Woodstock was nothing that I ever would have gone to, sex, drugs, rock and roll, the baby boom generation. And we have our whole generation is Pluto and Leo. So that's a transformation of everything that is Leo. And none of that made any sense to me. So there I am, and I'm at this end of the table saying, okay, there's no such thing as free love, because I was seeing herpes and warts and you name it. And I thought, these women who are having sex with everything that isn't nailed down and proclaiming the sexual revolution. And, and what I'm seeing is you're all getting screwed. You're all getting screwed. And, this group, my generation, had their first abortions at the same age when their mothers had their first children.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a perfect time and here we are, right? Roe v. Wade looks like it's about to be overturned. Roe v. Wade was legal in 1971. So here we are. So that was what entered was a whole era of sexual freedom, birth control pills, all of this. And I remember going to my then husband's 25th Harvard reunion. And all the women that he'd gone to college with had gone to Radcliffe. He had been to Harvard. So you know how they always had the women's college and then the men's college. And all the women wanted to come over and have their pictures taken with the Harvard men. And I remember one woman in particular, she said, I don't want my children to go to an all women's college because they will never know the male point of view. I looked at her and I said, how could they miss the male point of view? It's all of written history.
Oh my God.
And, but I noticed that a lot of my generation, and that's continued, put off getting married, having children, because we were all sold on, you can do it all. You can have a career, you can have children. And so I noticed this about my husband's classmates at that time. Many of them had totally bought the notion that your career came first. And then here they were approaching midlife. And I remember hearing about Joyce Brothers. This was this very, very famous, smart woman who was on television way, way, way back. And I remember that after her husband died, she just traveled constantly to be on these TV shows. And the image that came to my mind was her traveling through airports, dragging her bag alone for the next thing, because she was alone. And I just know that women need to understand that, generally speaking, the career is great, but it isn't enough to fill your heart unless, and it depends, you could have a career, let's say as a teacher, where you're mentoring children and you have constant family, we need community. You don't have to have a child to have community, but we've got to pay attention to the things that nurture our hearts. And I remember when I was president of the American Holistic Medical Association, I knew all these holistic doctors, which is how I could tolerate coming back home and, being ridiculed for eating brown rice. And, but I knew that I needed to create heaven on earth where I lived in my own community, because if it was always out there, like, okay, I'm going to give you one of my pet peeves, right? Burning Man or Coachella. It's like, are you people out of your mind? Okay, you go and you work for these high-end business things. You work for psychopaths. You make this incredible living. And then once a year you go to Burning Man to be free and to dance around naked or whatever they do. I mean, I remember thinking, this is nuts. This is crazy. You have to live a life where the people you want to be with, the stuff you want to do, isn't somewhere where you got to take a plane to get away from your real life. You want to create your real life so that it nurtures you, so that it feeds you. And for many, right this very now moment, that may mean moving. You and I both know that, because suddenly the landscape of all of planet Earth has changed. And where you thought you wanted to be, like I had a daughter in New York City, actor, singer, and then the whole thing started. And I said, you better get out of there. You better get out of there. And she did. So she's now living in an apartment that I have connected to the house. We know it's a temporary situation. Many of you listening will know it's a temporary situation. You don't know where you're going to go, but here's what you do know. There's going to be, and I was listening to Elena Danaan today talking about the colonies on Mars, and she said Eden means a garden in space. That's what the word Eden means. So I believe that we're going to have all these gardens around the world where people like us go and meet our soul family. And your birth family may or may not be your soul family. It may just be the family you chose to sand off the edges that needed to be sanded off.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible. And it is like here in Costa Rica. I mean, I'm here. The main reason I'm here is because right before Jeff died, we were planning to come here. And then when he died so suddenly, I was such a zombie. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to keep to the plan. So I came to Costa Rica and ended up in this beautiful house, and that's now on the market. So it's just so amazing. There are so many people here. They're planning. There's something called the Arc happening. And they're building community, and it's beautiful. And I'm looking at something down in Mexico. Again, it's beautiful houses, and you know. And I think everyone's like, oh, I can't afford it. Yeah, you can, babe. We all think, oh, no, that's too much. You live in California. You are a gazillionaire, right? Sell your house and move. You know, I mean, you do, you guys. I'm just saying, for example.
Yeah.
You know, because California, where I lived for years, San Diego, Oceanside, Coronado, for years I lived there. And we think, oh, we can't do it. We've got to stay near the family. We got to. We could die tomorrow. You know, you and I in particular know more than anyone. 1 minute you're here, the next minute you, like my beloved, gave me a kiss, said, if I told you I love you today, turned around, touched the cupboard, dropped down, never woke up again. Done. Yeah. You ain't got time. Got time to wait around until so-and-so just saw a massive orb just go flying. Hi, Jeff. Go flying.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, Jill, goosebumps. But yeah, we got it. Like, this is a life you were gifted. This is the life you are in. It's time. This whole, let's say the last 2 years. To me, there are so many blessings in it. So much hardship, so much trauma as well. So much, oh my God, so much fuckery. But it depends how you decide to look at it and decide, how will I navigate through this? We can all make a million reasons why we can't do something. But why don't we just take a seat and think about, what can I do? What shall I do? What will lift me up? What will make me happy? In terms of lifting people up, Dr. Christiane and I are planning to come to you for 4 individual, maybe 30-minute sessions over the next few weeks, just to give you a bit of a laugh and a bit of a lift, and bring you some wisdom, some knowledge, and some metaphysical and physical and spiritual techniques. But for right now, this broadcast, it's all about her. It's all about you, boo. So let's talk about the authorship. The writer, the expresser, the teacher, the trainer. I want to start with your book, Goddesses Never Age. What inspired that, and why did you write it?
All right. This is the favorite book that I ever wrote, ever. Goddesses Never Age. Okay. This book was inspired by me going through a divorce and refusing, with a husband who got married 15 minutes later and went on to have another family.
We waited that long, did he? Waited that long? A whole 15 minutes? Wow, well done.
Yeah, well, no, it was more than that, but it was, you know how it is. It seemed that way. And, it's like, wow, I've loved this person for 24 years and this is what it's come to. Yes, because that's what it was meant to come to. So then I'm thinking, oh man, how could someone as upstanding as me end up in such a soap opera? And so I refused to get bogged down. Now, at the time, I thought that my salvation, I know that no other woman has ever thought this in her whole life, but I believe that my salvation would come from meeting the man of my dreams and getting remarried right away. Like that would just take, he left a man-sized hole. So therefore, I got to fill it as soon as I can. Instead, I wrote The Wisdom of Menopause. And well, actually, the first thing that happened is I thought I was going to lose the house. I realized the divorce was a lawsuit. Suddenly I'm up to my neck in needing to understand, to become financially literate. I had let him take care of all of that. And so I read Robert Kiyosaki and I played the game cash flow till I could get out of the rat race. And I thought of myself as a business and had a big success with The Wisdom of Menopause, which was on Oprah in hard copy. So I owe Oprah my driveway and my kitchen. And then I began to teach at Mama Gina's School of Womanly Arts. And the main thing was to change my mindset. What I noticed is what women go through. They go through this thing where they say, it's too late for me. It's too late for me. All the men want women who are 20 years younger, da, 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 da. And I set out to prove that wrong. That's all. I just set out to prove it wrong. And I was working with Dorothy Cohen at the time, who does the dream work and is the medium and all of that stuff. And I'm talking to her. I'm obviously, very concerned that I'm getting older and it's too late for me and all the stuff that the culture puts in your head. And she says to me one day, but my dear, goddesses never age. And so I know this would be a good title. So, I shop it by the people in New York, Random House, and they say to me, well, that title, don't you think that's going to offend some people? And I said, it's playing really well in the Midwest, like Chicago. And no, I don't think it's going to offend anybody. It's that New York left hemisphere. We're too cool for school. Yeah. You are all such ignorant hicks. And we know what is sophisticated and what will sell. And we all dress in black. And so that's when I had Hay House do this book. I did a PBS special on it. They would not go with the word goddesses never age. So we had to call it Glorious Women Never Age. And so I had this huge success with this book, but it came from my own personal, this is not going to be my experience of disintegrating, getting asexual, getting old. And when I talk about old, I'm not talking about chronologic age. I'm talking about biologic age. I also met Mario Martinez at that time, who wrote the Mind Body Code. And Mario is the one who said to me, just don't give your age, just don't talk about it. Because here's why. We co-author each other's biology. So if I know how old someone is, I start to treat them the way I think that age person should be treated. Do you understand? And so I've told everyone, my Pilates teacher, everybody, please don't ever tell me your age. I don't want to know your age. We talk ourselves into a very narrow runway. Well, I'm getting older. At my age, it's too late to learn a language, learn how to dance, whatever. I also learned Argentine tango, hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Oh my God, yes.
And get my ass down to the place. And, I remember there weren't enough leaders. There weren't enough men. There were all these middle-aged women who wanted to learn how to dance. And I thought, am I going to let this keep me from learning? No. And I thought, I'm just going to stand right in the front and I'm going to smile. I created the most glorious dance community. I put mirrors all over my living room. I had regular dances here. We had potlucks. I mean, it was just glorious. I'd go down to New York. I would dance tango. Then COVID happened and everyone, started to get scared for close embrace anything. So I haven't done it since. And that's okay. And I'll tell you why. I got tango internalized in my body. I had to learn how to surrender to the lead of a man. I had to learn how to surrender to the lead of, let's call it the masculine. And so my body got trained in responding. And then men learn that what they're doing as they dance, because remember, it's improvisational. There are no steps. There's a basic step, but it's improvisational. And so you just go with what the music tells you to do. So it's a martial art where you just learn how to respond in your body, and to let go of that kind of control and learn how to yield was an unbelievable lesson. But it's in there now. It's in my body. So I don't need to go dancing all the time. I whatever that was healing is all healed now.
God.
And yeah.
It is one of the sexiest dances I have ever witnessed, when you're being twirled around and you're putting your leg through the man's leg and twist. It's that leg movement. It's just so erotic. And it's such a good way to keep fit too. And I love all of the things you've just shared, again, to inspire other women to keep moving forward, to not die when the divorce has come and that's died, from what it was, and just to keep on going and going. I can attest, in real life, you are very beautiful and you are very bright. You got the biggest bloody laugh in the room as well. You can hear Christiane laughing from the back of the hall. You are so involved in life, right? Yeah. And then your skin. I mean, it's like this is luminescence. It was just so beautiful to watch. Like you can't age you. You can't age you. And so that brings me to your skin product company, Amata. Yeah. Let's go a little bit into the invention, the creation, and why you came up with the name, and what is the thinking behind it?
Well, this is funny. So during this whole process, I do a thing called the Awakened Masculine Divine Feminine in Hawaii, right? At some kind of place where, it's a retreat center where the bugs are falling on your head. And, and the goddess, what's her name? The Hawaiian goddess, she doesn't really want women there because she's jealous. Pele. So I go there and somebody had a sample of a vaginal cream made with the herb Pararia mirifica, and which means miracle herb. And it's a very powerful phytoestrogen, phyto meaning plant estrogen, different from mammalian estrogen. And I tried the product, and then I met a bunch of people who wanted me to help them market it. Now, it is a long story that involved a number of psychopaths, and always does with me.
Oh my God!
We really want to teach you a bunch of stuff. So, this was like leading up to this book, Dodging Energy Vampires. But I managed to finally figure out how to get this Pararia mirifica. I wanted it in a vaginal product to re-estrogenize the vagina without a prescription. And so we added other things to it, oak gall, which is tightening. And then I wanted some to have a warming sensation. So we managed to do that. You can't even imagine how many product tests that I went through. And then way back, I was told, well, any product that gets put in the vagina has to be registered with the FDA. And I remember I used to give lectures at that time, and I'd say, guys, line up along the right side of the room because you better get that thing registered with the FDA. I mean, I thought it was so stupid. Anyway, long and short of it, I had to negotiate through these people that I was doing business with. And again, here's the blessing. I had to own my own worth and work with a company who imported the herb, had the patented process of taking out the active ingredients, that's on Long Island, and basically raise the money, launch the product, and now it's launched. And I'm going to tell you, okay, so this is the vaginal moisturizer, and this stuff is magic. It is magic. I have a friend who was in her 40s in perimenopause, and she said literally she hadn't had children, and she said it's just like her vagina just closed down. She doesn't know why. I sent her some of this, and she goes, okay, my husband has now become my boyfriend. So the guy loves me. He loves me.
Wow.
We've got, we've got very...
Christiane, go back to that product. Hold it up so we can see what it's called and the logo. So when people are looking for it, they can.
Okay. Yeah, this is called the Vaginal Moisturizer Amata Life. forget the hyphen, that's an old box, amatalife.com, and the vaginal moisturizer. But if you just go to the website, AMA, and by the way, Amata means ageless in Thai. So I went over to Thailand with my beloved because I wanted to go and visit the jungle where they harvest this stuff. And it's in these big roots, and you gotta get the right one. There are 25 different species, and you gotta have the native wild harvesters who know what they're doing. And so we went and visited, and it was right by the way. Remember those boys, those Thai boys that were all in the cave? The Boy Scout leader took them into the cave, and they escaped by drugging each of them with ketamine and bringing them out. I mean, it was an incredible story. And there's all this folklore about the goddess there. That's where I went to visit the Prairie Mirifica roots. We have this is the capsule. This is what I take, but you can get this either as a capsule or a liquid. It's just twice a day. And it contains also kelp, because women need iodine, and then methylated folic acid and methylated B12 so that you can metabolize the phytoestrogen. And what we find is this often works for women, so they don't need to go on prescription estrogen and progesterone, because, and it also, it's a SERM, it's a selective estrogen receptor modulator, meaning it's like tamoxifen. It sits on the beta estrogen receptor so that you don't get all the growth. You know, women are very afraid of estrogen because of the connections with various growths, cancers, and so on. And with mammalian estrogen, that's a risk, but with plant estrogen, it's all different pathways. It's completely different. And almost no Western doctor understands the difference. Naturopaths do, because they study botany, they study plant medicine, and so on. And then we have, you know, we've got various skin creams. This is one of our, you know, neck cream, another face and neck cream. I mean, I kind of love our different creams, but all of them contain Prairie Mirifica, which the skin has estrogen receptors all over it. And so when you put this on topically or you put it in orally, it is plumping up those estrogen receptors in the skin. So that's how this, and you know what? It was a pain bringing this product to, you know, to market. And so I would go back to Doris all the time. I'd say, Doris, are you sure I should do this? She'd say, darling, this is going to help so many women. You just have to do it. And, you know, and I ended up, because the guys I was working with, you know, there was always the shell game and I could never figure out who's in partnership with what. And I need to get this straightened out. And, you know, I ended up paying $70,000 of their legal bills. Just, I mean, you know, but here's what I want all of you empaths to know. And that is, we are here in part to develop our own ego strength. You know, you hear from all the spiritual thing, ego, edging God out, or, you know, ego, get over your ego. Some of us are born with a negative ego. We keep looking for things to improve about ourselves, to feel good about ourselves. And the narcissists are born with a superior ego. Nothing they do is a problem. Mm-hmm. So the reason empaths with negative egos attract all these narcissists and psychopaths with the superior ego is we need to learn to rise up and take up our own space and trust ourselves. Narcissists think everything they do has sparkles on it.
Yeah.
But they're empty inside. We're not empty inside at all. We just have to learn how to trust ourselves. So I had to learn, listen, honey, you can publish a book and you can run a company. And so our distribution center is in Mobridge, South Dakota, where there's not much going on, but the whole town works, you know, at the distribution center. And we do our best to send to other countries. Sometimes it gets, you know, held up at the border. I mean, I would like everyone to have the ability to get on this stuff. But we're the only ones in the world with the Prairie Mirifica vaginal moisturizer. And this stuff is a game changer. And
Wow.
here's the other thing. After you use it for a while, it turns on something in your body. So you don't need to use it anymore. It's like I call it awakens the goddess somehow. And I have no scientific explanation for that. That's just what, the feedback is.
Wow. My goodness. What a brave area to go, literally, in terms of, physical health care and well-being. And that's just so beautiful. So
once you get to Orlando, I'll just send you a whole package of everything.
Great. I'm going to bring an empty suitcase.
Okay, good.
Fill it up with Dr. Christiane's products and look amazing. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Speaking of Orlando, let's just quickly go there for a moment.
Yeah.
To everyone watching, there is the most incredible event occurring in Orlando, October 21 to 23 of this year, 2022. It is called the Galactic and Spiritual Informers Connection, where we have brought together the greatest global speakers of our time, elders, people that have true real life connection with the Andromedans, with the Pleiadians. We have somebody standing on stage, Elena Danan, who is an actual earth emissary. Now, if you are somebody who doesn't have an ability to have an open mind, just hit mute for a minute, because we don't care. But to the rest of you that are really excited about learning the true history of your planet, the true history of your solar system. You mentioned Mars earlier. It's so irritating to me that Elon Musk is talking about colonizing Mars. Dude, where were you? That was done years ago. Like, I'm tired. So we're bringing all the people forward, telling humanity, my darlings, this is your planet. This is the technology. These are the people that can bring you the proof and the validation. Ta-da! We're so excited. So the website is galacticspiritualinformers.com. galacticspiritualinformers.com. Not only do we have the most amazing speakers speaking on stage, Alex Collier, Dr. Michael Salla, Elena Danan, Huna Flash, Tony Rodriguez, Jean-Charles Moyen, Sambo True Brother. You want to know who Sasquatch is? Come, we're going to tell you. So many other amazing people I cannot think at this moment, but also the audience. The audience is going to be you guys watching. How amazing are you lot? How amazing will it be for people to come and sit in the audience who've never felt normal? They've always felt odd. They've always felt like this is the wrong body, this is the wrong thinking. And people like Dr. Christiane Northrup, she gonna be there. Her ass is gonna be there. Along with Catherine Edwards, along with Mark Atwood, along with Janine Steffens from Turn the Page. I mean, so many people are coming. And this is a literal shift in consciousness. So can't wait to see you guys there, galacticandspiritualinformers.com. Now, back to you, my love.
Yes.
Your mum was accused as a little girl of painting nail polish on the toenails of the Holy Mother of Mother Mary.
Yes.
So did it ever come to pass who did it?
This is weird. Her sister, my Aunt Ruth, actually knows who did it. And so when I go home to visit, I'm going to find out. I'm going to have to little sit down with my Aunt Ruth and say, okay, what was the real history of this? See, my mother was a tomboy and she just didn't fit in. She was different. And like many people who had trauma in their childhood, she never remembered things well. I mean, I would hear stories that made no sense chronologically. It is what you realize. It is the memory of a trauma survivor where this makes no sense. I mean, I heard that her father left when she was 12 and had an affair with another woman. But then I talked to the people who knew and they said, no, he waited until the kids were out of high school. So it's like nothing ever made sense. And I just know she was different. And she said, bless her, if this is religion, I want no part of it. meanwhile, her sister has found enormous solace in the church and has been very, very happy and not traumatized at all. So this is why there's no one universal truth.
Yes.
The two lawyers that I work with on medical freedom issues, both of them, Tom Rentz and Ron Jenkins, are ardent practicing Catholics, but they said, yeah, but that's not my church. I would like the Vatican and the Pope. I'm sorry, no. So they have their faith. And I think we need to have faith. Those who are followers of Jesus, Yeshua, that doesn't have to have a thing to do with the church. Nothing.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. I love that. So I love the nail story, toenails, etc. That your mom, that could have followed her whole life, but there was a recovery early on from that. And it's exciting that you're going to get to know. You have to tell us next time we sit down and we broadcast together. I went for a walk yesterday. So many of us that have had our nails done, etc., say that the salon is staffed by the most intelligent and talented nail technicians from Vietnam, let's say. So my friend here, Jojo, she's Vietnamese. I love her accent. I love the way these people, the harmonic, the vocalization, the sounds, the click, click, anyway, I said to her, right, Jojo, I know that those women are talking about us all, and she starts laughing. Yes. She's like, oh, Danny. I said, come on, what are they saying? She goes, well, she said, what? They say, oh, here come that bitch. Here come that bitch. Head down, be busy, be busy. And they say things like, oh no, she got stinky feet. Oh, head down. They were peeing our pants yesterday. I couldn't even walk. I'm like, I knew it. I knew they're all talking about us, Oh my God, so funny. So anyway, you reminded me of that yesterday, because saying about your mom and the toenails on the Holy Mother. Oh my goodness, so hilarious.
That's right.
We could just keep going and going, but what I want to say is thank you so much for sharing and gifting us so much more of who you be on this realm, on this planet. And there is such a global, I'm talking to those of you that have never witnessed this lady, Dr. Christiane Northrup, I'm talking millions and millions and millions of actual people. Okay, you just had an orb fly up there. It may have been a feather, I don't know, but when we go back, you just have a little orb fly up there on your side of the screen. This lady, gazillions of people around the planet know her, have read her books. I told you when I was sitting with you on stage at the Mexican Cozumel event, Burning Mask, that one of my friends, Jeff Burr, he is the tattooed spirit, he's a beautiful man. He was like, tell Dr. Christiane that she's influenced my life as a man. And I've read all her books. Like, girl, the influence that you have had, the loving, positive, life-saving, instructional, incredible, humorous, like every part of it that you've gifted this planet. Can I just thank you on behalf of the human race? Like, seriously.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honestly, you're a joy, you're a pleasure, and an honor, and I can't wait to play with you again soon. I would love to hand over to you and for you to close out with any words that come to your heart.
Well, first of all, it's been fantastic to reunite with you, Danny, because I know that we've been playing in the spiritual realms for a long time. Yeah. Any woman who travels with a fart gun is a friend of mine.
Hold on a second. I put you on speaker only. Okay. I know how old you are. You're 12.
That's 12. Right. That's
it.
Okay, I had a fart machine that I put in. It was not like the gun, but I put it in the drawer. And one night I'm sitting at the kitchen table, and the drawer starts to fart. And what was happening? The batteries were dying down. Oh God. So here, okay, my final words are this. You know who the spiritual people are They are the ones who can laugh, who can laugh. And if someone is, okay, so here's what you all need to know. If they are offended, if they're offended or they're virtue signaling, run the other way. They are trying to put you down instead of standing up and laughing and dancing and celebrating with you. This is now my litmus test for how spiritually evolved a person is. They have to be up for a good laugh. If they're not, next, I don't want anything to do with them.
That's great. I love it. And I totally concur. I totally concur. Absolutely. If anyone takes himself too seriously or puts himself on a guru level, we are standing shoulder to shoulder. We are linking arms. We are all as one together, our own individual beingnesses coming forward in love. And if that's not in front of you, move along. That's what I would say too. Oh my goodness. Well, I cannot wait to play with you again. And so much love to you. And thank you. God bless you. You're just amazing. And it's been I knew this was going to be fun. We've been saying it for the last 2 weeks. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a laugh. Yes, girl.
Right.
Yes, girl.
All right.
So
Great.
to you guys out there, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back over the next 4 weeks, as I mentioned. So we look forward to playing with you again. Leave your comments under here in the comment section and we'll answer as many as we can get to. And for the meantime, I am Dani, spiritual therapist, and I send you my love and I'll see you soon.